David was 67 years old, and the shooting range security guard Jake had immediately labeled him as homeless at first glance. But when David rolled up his sleeve, revealing the faded seal tattoo, it would become one of the most shocking moments Jake had ever witnessed in his life. Because the man standing before him was one of America's most elite warriors, and Jake had gotten everything wrong about him. Before we dive into this incredible story of misjudgment and hidden heroism, tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching this video today? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support Honor Stories. We're here to share the moments that remind us heroes often hide in plain sight. At 3:45 p.m., the Pine Valley shooting range in the suburban neighborhood was quiet as usual. Weekdays didn't bring many customers. Security guard Jake Martinez, 28 years old, had been working for 6 months. After graduating from college, he had started as a temporary job but hadn't found a better alternative yet. David Thompson appeared that afternoon, walking slowly outside the range. The 67-year-old man wore a worn jacket, old jeans, and shoes with holes. His hair was disheveled, his beard a few days old. He carried an old backpack and looked tired. When Jake saw David through the window, he thought to himself, "Another homeless person. He'll probably ask for money, or looking for a warm place." David approached the range entrance and timidly looked inside. Jake stood up and walked toward the door. "Can I help you?" Jake said, his voice distant and cold. David calmly replied, "Hello, could I use your range?" Jake was surprised. He had never thought this man would want to do target practice. "Do you have identification?" he asked. David pulled an old wallet from his pocket and handed over his ID. Jake took the ID and examined it. David Thompson, 67 years old. The address section showed a cheap motel. "Do you have a firearms license?" Jake asked. "Yes," David said, and pulled out an old but valid license from his wallet. Jake checked the license. Everything appeared legal, but he still had doubts. "Range usage fee is $50, he stated. David pulled out crumpled bills from his pocket and began counting. Jake thought the man was in a difficult situation. "Do you have a weapon?" Jake asked. "No," David said. "Can I rent one?" Jake almost laughed. He couldn't believe this old, poor-looking man would do target shooting. "Rental fee is an extra $25, he said. David nodded and paid the money. Jake had the mandatory papers signed and took David to the firing line. "Lane 7 is yours," Jake said. "Ear and eye protection required." David put on the equipment, and Jake gave him a rental pistol. "Glock 17. Familiar?" he asked. "Somewhat," David said humbly. Jake pointed. "Target is 25 yards away. Do you know the safety rules?" David nodded. Jake moved away a bit, but continued watching David. He was curious how the old man would shoot. David took the gun in his hand. The weight felt familiar. Memories from 30 years ago came flooding back. The forests of Vietnam, the deserts of Iraq, the mountains of Afghanistan. He fired his first shot. He had hit the target slightly to the right of center. Jake thought it was a bad shot, as he expected. But something changed in David's stance. He regulated his breathing and adjusted his position. Second shot, dead center. Jake began watching more carefully. This was probably luck. Third, fourth, fifth shots, all in the target center, very close to each other. Jake's eyebrows furrowed. Something was different about this man. David finished the rest of the magazine. 14 out of 15 shots were in the target center, one very close to center. This was professional level. "Good shooting," Jake said as he approached, his voice now more respectful. "Thank you," David said. "Can I get another magazine?" Jake provided another magazine. This time, David chose a more distant target, 50 yards. This time, his shots were even more impressive. It was as if the gun was an extension of his hand. Every shot was flawless. Jake now wondered who this man was. "Where have you shot before?" he asked. "Various places," David said vaguely. "Are you police? Military?" David hesitated. "I'm retired," he replied. Jake wanted to ask more questions, but it was clear David didn't want to answer. At that moment, the range owner Marcus Webb entered. In his 50s, he was a former police officer. He came to Jake's side. "Who is this man?" Marcus asked in a low voice. David Thompson. Renting a gun, Jake replied. Marcus watched David shooting. This level is far above normal, he observed. Yes, I noticed that too, Jake agreed. Marcus approached and spoke with David. Excellent shooting. Where did you learn? David replied shyly. Years of practice. What field did you work in? Military service. Marcus increased his interest. Which unit? David became uncomfortable. Long ago. Not important, he said. Meanwhile, Jake noticed David taking off his jacket due to the heat. On the old man's right arm was a faded but distinguishable tattoo. Jake tried to look closer. The tattoo was very old and faded, but the shape. Is this a trident? Jake thought. Then he was shocked. Seal tattoo! Jake's breath was taken away. Seal tattoos were rarely seen, and usually fake ones, but there was no sign this was fake. Moreover, David's shooting skills supported this theory. Jake gave Marcus an eye signal, and they moved away a bit. Marcus, the man has a seal tattoo on his arm, Jake whispered. Marcus was surprised. Are you sure? Pretty sure. And his shooting level supports this theory too. Marcus looked at David again. The old man was setting up a new target and preparing to shoot. If he's a real SEAL, Marcus said, we misjudged him badly. Jake completed. Marcus went to David's side. Mr. Thompson, I'm Marcus Webb, owner of this range. Could I speak with you? David nodded. Sure. Your shooting level is quite impressive. I assume you had professional training, Marcus said. David replied modestly. Some. Which unit did you serve in? David hesitated. Navy, Marcus asked more specifically. Which Navy unit? David took a long breath. SEAL Team 6, he answered. Jake and Marcus's mouths fell open. SEAL Team 6 was America's most elite special forces unit. How long did you serve? Marcus asked. From 1975 to 2005, 30 years, David replied. Jake's head was spinning. Was this man really a SEAL legend? Marcus asked respectfully. Which operations were you involved in? David became uncomfortable. Most were classified. I can't discuss them, he said. I understand. But might I know you? Your name sounds familiar, Marcus said. David shook his head. David Thompson. I don't think you know me. Marcus thought. Thompson? Wait, are you that David Thompson? From Grenada in 1983. David interrupted. Please, let's not discuss the past. But Marcus didn't stop. You're that Thompson from that operation, the one who saved the hostages. Jake understood nothing. What operation? Marcus explained excitedly. In 1983, there were American hostages in Grenada. David Thompson and his team rescued them. It was a very famous operation. David nodded humbly. It was teamwork. I was just a part of it. Jake was shocked. The man he had considered homeless a few hours ago was one of the country's heroes. Mr. Thompson, Jake said shamefully, I was prejudiced against you. I'm very sorry. David laughed. No problem, son. People judge by appearance. It's normal. Marcus insisted. No, this isn't normal. You're a hero of this country. We should show you respect. I just did my job, David said. So did others, Jake asked. So why? Why are you in this situation? David's face tensed. Life gets hard sometimes. PTSD, divorce, unemployment. It all adds up. Marcus nodded understandingly. Many veterans go through this process. Yes, but I don't complain. I'm alive. I'm not as lucky as some friends, David said. Jake became angry. The system left you behind. The system isn't perfect, David said, but I still love this country. Marcus suddenly decided. Mr. Thompson, I want to do something for you. It's not necessary, David said. No, it is necessary. This range is now free for you. You can come whenever you want. David objected. This is too much. No, this is nothing, compared to what you did. Jake interjected. And I'll bring you daily meals. Please accept. David's eyes filled with tears. You are very kind. Marcus put his hand on David's shoulder. "We are kind. You are a hero." From that day on, David became a regular customer of the range. But now he was welcomed not as a homeless man, but as a respected veteran. Jake learned many things from David: shooting techniques, discipline, patience, and most importantly, not judging people by their appearance. Marcus started a special program for David. He arranged a day when other veterans could also come and shoot for free. A few weeks later, the local newspaper heard about the situation. They wanted to interview David, but he refused. "Why?" Jake asked. "Because I'm no longer a warrior," David said. "I'm just a man trying to live. But people should know your story." David smiled. "Real heroes don't tell stories, Jake. They live quietly." Months passed. David's situation began to improve. Marcus offered him a part-time job at the range. David accepted. One day, a young man came to the range. His appearance resembled David's condition when he first came: poor, disheveled, careless. Jake approached him with the same cold attitude. David intervened. "Jake, give every person a chance. Appearance can be deceiving," he said. Jake hesitated, then treated the young man warmly. The man also turned out to be a veteran and needed help. That night, Jake thanked David. "You taught me an important lesson." "What lesson?" "Not to judge people by their appearance." David smiled. "That's the most valuable lesson, son, because every person has a story." David Thompson had started a new life at that small range. He no longer lived on the street, but in a respected place. But most importantly, he felt valuable again. Marcus and Jake had learned so much because of him, and now they approached every new customer with the same respect. Because sometimes heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear worn jackets and live quietly. And our duty is to notice them and show them the respect they deserve. David's story didn't end at that small range. It began. Because real heroism isn't what was done in the past, but what is lived today. This story reminds us that heroes often walk among us unrecognized, carrying their service quietly and asking for nothing in return. Have you ever encountered someone whose true story was hidden beneath their appearance? Share your experience in the comments below and let us know what city you're watching from today. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Honor Stories and hit that notification bell. We publish new stories every week that celebrate the hidden strength and quiet dignity of those who served. Because sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones who never ask to be seen as extraordinary. Thank you for watching. And remember, before you judge someone by their appearance, remember that heroes come in all forms, and respect should never depend on how someone looks.